New thought. Today we are going to talk about new thought. So let's see, what is new thought? The new thought is a mind healing movement based on the metaphysical construct concepts. New thought originated in United States in the 19th century and seeks to help people achieve a better understanding of divine mystery through the power of their thoughts. Thinking. The term new thought signifies that once your thoughts could unlock the secrets to living a better life free from the constraints of doctrines or dogma. How about it? Free from the constraints. Have a free thinking. Free your mind. Now, on the same token, hypnosis is based on the idea that our thoughts and beliefs shape our experiences and our reality. And in hypnosis, when we access the subconscious mind through the hypnosis, properly trained hypnotist, individuals may be able to identify and overcome limiting beliefs and negative thought patterns that are preventing them from achieving their goals. So hypnosis is not just about trauma, it's not just about anxiety and other things. Hypnosis, it's been used for eons and eons for personal development and achieving peak performance and for bettering yourself. On the other hand, hypnosis is not a cure-all of everything, and it's been shown to be effective in treating a range of issues like anxiety, depression, pain, chronic pain, phobias, and a lot of habit disorders. And a lot of us are very familiar that, well, a lot of people, when they hear hypnosis, they think of quitting smoking right away, which is sad if you ask me, because we get to do much more with hypnosis other than just quit smoking. But it's important to know that hypnosis is not a magic solution that fixes all, and should be used in conjunction with other therapeutic techniques. And I particularly like clinical hypnosis, that kind of hypnosis which is therapeutic. And also hypnosis should be used with other self-help strategies to get you to free your thoughts from constraints. And it's also very important in hypnosis to work with a qualified and experienced practitioner to ensure that you have a safe and effective experience. I remember that in the last session, I talked about clients feedbacking on the fact that they were completely aware of their thoughts and their feeling during the session. But talking about new thoughts, that is a topic that has been of high interest for me for a very long time. And why? Because new thought helps us to first to understand, well, first to be curious, because I was curious. So with our thoughts, we can unlock the secrets to living a better life free from constraints on doctrines or dogma. So most of the clients that I am seeing have their thoughts constrained by doctrines or dogma or limiting beliefs. But let's look into new thought today, and let's see what Randy has to add about new thought. Randy?
Well, dealing with thoughts created the most popular type of psychotherapy in our lifetimes, really. But it didn't begin there, but it was popularized there. Cognitive behavioral therapy deals with cognitive is the operative word. So cognitive behavioral therapy deals with what thoughts are. But before that, there was a type of therapy called rational emotive therapy, RET, and that dealt with thoughts. And in fact, one of the things I used to use a long time ago was a little diagram that showed that it's not just what we think, it's segmented into what we think, and those different thoughts go into different boxes. For instance, a rational thought is one thought, an irrational thought is another thought, a blaming thought is another thought. The thoughts that give us the most troubles, that cause the most misery in our lives, are what are called irrational thoughts. And the irrational thoughts, how can a thought be irrational? We can think things that just don't make sense, and there's no evidence for that. We think as if they're the 100% of what are called irrational, and we all do it, we all have it, and those thoughts, those irrational thoughts, we act as if they're laws of nature. What's an example? An example is people should be nice to each other. It's an example of an irrational thought. Well, that's true, right? I mean, people should be nice to each other. Everyone should be nice to everyone all the time, right? In the big picture of things. Well, I don't know if that's provable. It's a nice thought. It's an ideal, but is there some place, somewhere, written somewhere on some big stone or some big book in a dusty library that says, if you drop an apple, it's going to hit the ground? Is rule one. Number two, people should be nice to each other. One is a law of nature, the other one seems like it should be. Seems like it should be in that big dusty book somewhere, but it's not really. But if we think that that's the way it should be, what happens when people are not nice to each other, which happens every. The other day I was in a CVS, this is a very brief story. I was in a CVS doing something, and walked up, and there was a person that was blocking the aisle to get to the line, and I said, I was in a CVS, excuse me, I need to get around, and she looked up, and she just almost spit on me, and she said, I'm in line. And there wasn't a line, it was just her blocking the aisle, and my first gut reaction is, you shouldn't be so rude. Mean person, ugly person. Well, how do you think I'm going to feel with that thought? I'm going to feel crappy. Is there a rule? Is that true? That she shouldn't be? If it's true, why is she rude? If it's true that she shouldn't be rude, why is she? Does that make sense? In other words, some thoughts are based in reality, and one of them is that there are laws of nature we can't break. If I spill my water that I'm drinking, it's going to hit the floor. That's true. If I think I'm a clumsy fool for doing it, that's not necessarily true, but I can think it is. So anyway, my wrapping it up, my point is that yes, there's the idea of having the new thoughts are what was the basis for how to address horrible feelings that come from thoughts. It's not a brand new idea. It really goes back to philosophers, I think. But it came into big gleam when in the 1980s and early 70s, 80s, and 90s. A psychiatrist latched onto it named Aaron Beck. He latched onto that way of thinking, and when a psychiatrist doctor latches onto something, They get money, they get funding, they get studies, and it's proven to be a very effective treatment. And it is, but that's where the popularity came from. And that's more than I've talked in the last 2 days. In that one segment.
All right, Randy, thank you for the wisdom. And it's very helpful to acknowledge that we have rational and irrational thoughts. But what I find very interesting and what I find very interesting is that this movement that started in the 19th century in the US of A, the most wonderful country in the world. New Thought was a movement that was a mind healing movement that was based on metaphysical construct concepts. So when you think of a mind healing, this is what hypnosis does, mind healing. And if we can think different thoughts other than dogma and doctrine, if we can think different thoughts, then we can begin healing. So healing begins in thoughts, and most of everything begins in thought. But I'm going to have Anne enlighten us with her wisdom about new thought from her experience. Anne?
Okay, love to do that. First of all, I have to say that new thought has been around. It's not new. It really is not new. It has never been new. And if you look back to the days of Nathaniel Hawthorne, for instance, I think that goes into the 1800s or maybe even the 1700s. And I wish I had actually thought about some of the. Of course, there was Emerson, and Nathaniel Hawthorne, who was actually one of the people who was always around the round table when they were discussing these thoughts, which is where new thought came from. And I believe it was Nathaniel Hawthorne, who was actually not considered one of the elite at the time at all. But they allowed him in on the conversation because he had so many good things to say. So there were, and I'm sorry, but my names are fleeting for the moment, as to how many folks were involved with this. But it probably started initially back with, what was his name now? The clockmaker. He was the gentleman who was, with whom Mary Baker Eddy was taking some classes and teaching. She was learning from, I'm not getting the name at the moment. Sorry about that. But Mary Baker Eddy, who was the founder of
Christian Science?
Pardon?
Christian Science?
Christian Science, yes, Christian Science, thank you.
It believes you can literally heal with your mind.
And they do. The same as all of our New Thought churches have, definitely have healings that happen based on their understanding of New Thought. But other than going back, back to the late 1700s and the 1800s, it started really growing with the with what was going on the East Coast during that time. As I said, going back to Emerson and many of that ilk. And then the New Thought churches that we think of today are not Christian Science, but Divine Science, Unity, and Religious Science churches, which is where it really began to have its final niche. There's also a wonderful book out called Spirits of Rebellion that it's a very old book, but it's been out for some time, and it's a full history of that whole era and how it came to be the teaching that it is today. And when we talk about new thought, we're really talking about the idea of getting a new thought within us, thinking differently about what we're doing. And that's kind of exciting, and I think it's really actually based on a lot of the work that goes back to even Socrates and the rest of the masters that have been, from the beginning of time as we know it.
It is, and I have to tell you a secret. I grew up in a patriarchal society where new thought didn't exist unless you were reading books in histories about the Greeks, Socrates and Plato and things like that. But once I moved to US of A and I embraced a new concept, new way of thinking, soon after that I started embracing healing. So, and when you talk about the healing part of the thought, I have experienced it myself. And if I'm to tell you another secret, is I can't get enough of it. So my thoughts are always directed to the positive construction of reality and not going into that loop of intrusive thought and negative thoughts and irrational thoughts, because through the power of new thought and that the mind healing aspect of the new thought, which I'm not versed in the new thought as a science as you are, Anne, but through the power of new thought, through the mind healing aspect of it, I was able to, and still am able to, access so much more than what it was presented to me in that patriarchal society as of one way, this is my way, or the highway. Anne?
Yeah. With what you're saying kind of brings me to the concept and the idea of, have you heard of Louise Hay? In fact, I think the gal that was doing the Reiki over the weekend when we were...
Yes. Yeah, I'm very familiar, and I have her books, and I've used her affirmations. Go on, yes.
Right. So that was really kind of the heart of it, is the idea that you can change your thoughts. And you're doing that using affirmations, which are basically, affirmations can be quite easy. Usually you don't want to have too terribly many words, maybe 5 to 7 or 8 words in an affirmation, and always presented in the positive form. And if you repeat those and you continually put that kind of a thought and information in your mind, that's what you're going to experience in your life.
You are correct, because I have to agree that this is so. This is exactly so, because once I start to do exactly that, reprogram, I think, let's not say reprogram, because it may be heavy for many people, but once I start to redirect my thinking to positive, I started with positive affirmation and healing and positive prayer. Positive prayer is different than a traditional prayer, and maybe you can touch up on that. It's the whole world changes. I mean, I am the same person. I'm living in the same city. I still have the same family. But the reality begins to change. perception has a lot to do with the reality that we're experiencing. That's why new, clean, positive, affirming, health affirming thoughts are shaping our reality towards what we want to achieve. Now, that's not to say that our environment is not going to affect our reality, because if it rains, it's going to rain. It's not like I'm going to think, no, it's not going to rain, it's not going to rain. I mean, come on, don't be ridiculous. That's not how it works. But if you think of yourself, if you keep thinking of yourself that you have anxiety, let's say you've been diagnosed with anxiety, and you say, well, I have anxiety, well, I'm anxious, well, I'm depressed. I hear a lot of people come to me, I'm depressed. And I say, well, how do you know you're depressed? Why would you say you're depressed? So when you continue to say yourself, I'm depressed, you might as well be calm. And there's the power of I am, which we're not going to cover tonight. We're going to cover I am some later. But Anne, go ahead. Unless Randy, do you want to impart some wisdom, or do you want to let Anne continue?
I'll let Anne continue. I already wisdom during one part.
All right, Anne.
Okay. When you were talking, you said something that was just triggering in me, and about the positive thinking, and it's like the story that's often told about the weather, and it was, that everybody was talking about it was going to be raining and the weather was going to be bad, but nobody brought an umbrella except one person. Because they figured, oh well, it's not gonna rain, it's gonna be fine, I don't have to worry about it. And only one child brought the umbrella. So it's, you have to have the positive thought, but you also have to have some sense along with it.
Yes, you are correct. This brings me back to through a shamanic training that I had how many years ago, and then we were going to have the fire ceremony and other things. I don't remember the words to it, and it was going to be outside, and it was it looked like it was going to rain, but it wasn't raining, so everybody went over there, just the way they went. But I happened to have a hat. I loved wearing a hat during the, and I still love wearing hats right now. And I had a hat that matched my outfit, and I was all ready for the ceremony. And I was actually, everybody appreciated the fact that I thought to have a hat. Well, the hat had nothing to do with the rain. It's just something I like to wear. But you're right. You can't just think that in the middle of the night, you're gonna have a sunrise, because that's not how things works. There are some physical things that they work the way they work, and there are some things that they work behind the physics. So here we have metaphysical.
Right.
Go at it.
In the meta, of course, it goes beyond the normal physical understanding. And when we have a positive thought, and we're affirming that positive thought, whether it's regarding your health or your abundance or finding a new place to live or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Anything can be healed if you believe it can, and you consistently use that understanding and that positive. And when we have determination with it.
Correct. Yes. Randy, anything you have to add, or maybe questions, or something that you can relate to, or something you cannot relate to? That's a good thought. That's called the tip of the tongue phenomena.
And talk more about healing.
You curious about the healing aspect?
I'm curious to hear your opinions.
Okay. The way I can talk about healing with you, what we do in hypnosis, it's healing. Someone comes to us with a difficulty. When we go to a doctor with a difficulty. So when someone comes to us for hypnosis, they come to us with a difficulty. Just as the doctor addresses the difficulty and brings ease into that, so we do in hypnosis. That is healing. Now, if we are to be skeptical, and by all means, go ahead. If we are to be skeptical and understand healing as a something, as a cure, healing is not a cure, right? And if we are to understand healing only at the physical level, you broke an arm or a leg and then doctor has surgery and put a few titanium screws and fixed your leg and your arm, and you can go on with your life, or whatever other surgeries or anything else that the doctor repaired. That is indeed healing. But so is the healing we heal with our thoughts. And oftentimes you hear people they have gone through horrible health conditions that I'm not going to name, because it's not one health condition the worst of everything, because there's a lot of health conditions chronic that are worse than other, that whatever. So a lot of these people have mentioned that they are grateful for going through the journey that went through, because otherwise they would not be in the mindset that they are now. And they love the mindset that they are in. And to a great degree, you can also look at this as the power of transcendence. At this level, you have your physical body goes through a lot of there's not well-being, right? Because there's illness, chronic illness. But with the power of thought, power of new thoughts, positive affirmation, shifting mindset, mastering your thoughts, mastering your feelings, mastering your emotions, you begin to transcend your physical reality. In a way, you can say there is more acceptance to it, which it is. It begins with acceptance, but then you go much further into healing. And did I answer some of the things you wanted to hear?
Yeah, just no questions, just thoughts.
All right. Anne, do you want to talk more about healing and metaphysics?
Certainly. It's a wonderful opportunity to just begin to change your mindset. And instead of complaining about things happening and whatever, your mindset becomes expecting only the good to be coming around for you. And that's true, whether you're talking about shopping and running into the greatest bargain, or there's something that you really have been wanting and suddenly it's there. It can come in so many different ways that it all works. And there's so many authors out today that are dealing in this area of healing.
Well, that includes me.
The one that always comes to mind for me is Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've heard of him in the
Yes,
past.
yes, I'm familiar with Joe Dispenza. I'm familiar with his work, but so am I. I published 3 books, and 2 of them in Romanian, that I deal with the power of thought and positive thinking and all that. But go ahead.
Well, I just that came to mind for me some years ago, because I found that I was needing some healing of a full nature, and he happened to have. There was an article. He was just starting a lot of his books at that point. This was back in 2013 or 14, and a couple of his books had to do with physical healing, and he had a meditation that he had with it, and I used that exclusively in my healing some years ago. So it's, there's a lot of different avenues within this whole idea of new thought, and within this whole idea of healing. Healing can be healing our relationships, or healing our money issues, or healing a physical condition. And it just, for me, it just really starts with a positive mindset and an acceptance that it is possible, and anything is possible for us.
That is true, and you bring me to think about my own very deep meditation, a lot of spiritual practices that have brought me to my own healing. And when I talk about healing, I'm not talking about a cure, but some of the issue have been cured. For example, anxiety. And I did have anxiety shortly after I moved to United States, 30-some years ago. And I think that's normal. Anybody that would move to a new country would go through some degree, some level of anxiety. But through the power of new thought, of the mind-based healing, so I've practiced so many different spiritual practices, so much meditation, that I can say I cured that. If that is to talk about curing, I mean, just anxiety disappeared. And even when I have clients come to me and they say they're depressed, I contradict them, and I say, I don't think you're depressed. I think you're just going through some difficult times. You've had some difficult events happen in the past, and let's look at it and see. Have you been diagnosed? No, I have not been diagnosed. Or some people say that they've been diagnosed other than a psychiatrist. Well, if you've been diagnosed and other than a psychiatrist with depression, I'm going to question that. And is your depression maybe temporary due to some temporary stress, or is the clinical depression to be diagnosed by a psychiatrist? So there's so much that goes into the power of our thinking. And if I'm going to talk about Joe Dispenza, not long ago I watched this documentary about the documentary is called Heal, Heal, and I completely enjoyed it. And they continuously talk about the power of the thoughts, the mind over matter, the power of the thoughts at creating yourself a new reality of healing, and just like you say, it's healing is not just physical. Healing is healing relationship, it's healing relationship with money, it's healing your values, your beliefs, your strengths, and all the positive psychology. But they also stress the importance of feeling the feeling. How would you feel whatever difficulty you want to achieve? How would you feel when that, whatever difficulties you want to overcome, how would you feel when you've achieved that desired? And feel the feeling of. So when it comes to feeling, the feeling of my latest book is called Feelfulness, because I discovered in my all of my spiritual practice, and there's so many, that mindfulness, it's very good and it's very important, and a lot of therapists are incorporating mindfulness into their practices, and kudos to them. But to some degree, mindfulness takes you to where it's the beginning, and it takes you there. Mindfulness teaches you how to observe your thoughts and notice what feelings you have and just observe them. Well, with feelfulness, I coined the term. I don't know if somebody other than me, other people coined feelfulness before me. I'm not familiar with that. But with feelfulness, there are techniques that I've learned in shamanism, in alchemy, in mindfulness meditation, through positive affirmation of Louise Hay, and incorporating Reiki as well. There are techniques which I'm teaching people. Those techniques, once you learn how to allocate your attention resources, meaning you're not going to fall into irrational thoughts or those intrusive thoughts, or at least you learn how to manage them, with the power of this attention, observation, and focus in a very relaxed state, of course. It's all relaxed and all pleasant. You have the power to feel a feeling by choice. So this is the miracle of the healing, the thoughts, because thoughts are not separate from feelings, and feelings are not separate from thoughts. So a lot of people talk about mind-body connection. Well, I call my practices thought-feeling practices, because you get a thought to generate the feeling, and then practice these techniques, which is not just in meditation. You kind of there are different kind of meditation, but in traditional meditation, you're encouraged to quiet your thinking. And in quieting your thinking, you begin to generate alpha brain waves, which help your body release all kinds of good neurotransmitters. But in a healing type of meditation, there is an active meditation going. You think certain thoughts which eventually make you feel certain feelings. And at the end of it, you feel good. And, you want to feel good. Who doesn't want to feel good? Yeah. And then we take that further with feel a feeling by choice. Because people that have done guided meditation and healing meditation for a while, they have an idea of what I'm talking about, because they already have the power to feel differently about how they're feeling physically. And to go through that power of transformation it's absolutely priceless. So do you want to talk more about your healing or other people's healings or metaphysical? Or Randy, do you want to add something?
I have a question. Just because I think, just thinking of people that may watch this, if they're over the age of about 20, they're probably going to have some physical issues. And I'm a little over 20, and I have plenty of physical issues. So as hypnotists, how would either one of y'all actually approach it if somebody came to you and said that I have been diagnosed with arthritis, high cholesterol, heart disease? Can you help me with hypnosis? And especially the heart disease. I was thinking about, what if it's something horrible like cancer, stomach cancer or something. But even then, how would you approach it as a hypnotist? If you're thinking about these new thoughts, how would be the approach because when I read some stuff on Facebook, some of the discussions, a lot of people doing medical hypnosis. What could a hypnotist do to help somebody that had a chronic, quote unquote, incurable condition like heart disease, chronic heart disease? So anyway, I was thinking that.
Okay, so what do you do with any medical condition? In order to manage or to make that medical condition better, you have to behave differently. You have to change the lifestyle. If you are to do the same things, you're not going to get different results. That's it. If you want to get results, you're going to have to do some things different. Everything, no. A lot of things, yes. With a chronic disease like heart disease or arthritis or other things, there's lifestyle change is very important. And just so you get to help someone quit smoking, so there is a lot of behavior, non-beneficial and unhealthy producing behavior that produces unhealthy habits, or that triggers symptoms. You eat badly, you drink badly, you dance badly, you socialize with people that is contradictory to what needs to happen for managing their condition or making it better. And it is well known that medical hypnosis has worked for ages and ages. And
it's very effective, actually. Just like you said. Would you use the word, if I came to you and said, I've just been diagnosed with heart disease, they're wanting to put a stent in me, 2 stents in me, I've got blocked arteries, 90% blocked. Carmen, can you cure that? Would you use the word cure? If I came to you as a client and said, can you use hypnosis to cure that?
No, hypnosis is not a cure for all. And if their arteries are 90% blocked, I would send them right back to their cardiologist in an emergency fashion. So they in 90% artery blocked, hypnosis is not going to unblock their arteries. What hypnosis is going to do is going to clear their thoughts and take the anxiety away and have them become more aware of the fact that they need to listen to 2 or 3 doctors for the opinions for them to make the appropriate choice for them in a way that is good for them. A very important phrase in Ericksonian hypnosis: for you in a way that's good for you. So this is how I would address it. And if they still want to, there's going to be an intake, and if they still want to have a hypnosis session, I will go, let's do one, and we're just going to work on anxiety. And if they want to do regression, we can do regression and remove those anxiety blocks, because anxiety is such a deterrent to what we need to do right now to make things better. Because we are afraid that if we are going to make a mistake, and what's going to happen in the future, right? And then depression is the other one. Depression, it's all about the past. Like, nothing good happened in the past, and why should I take action now? In a situation of 90% arteries being blocked, you ought to take action. Cardiologist first. But I have had clients with chronic pain, and I'm talking about the kind of chronic pain that this client had a device implanted in her spinal cord. Talk about epidural injection. She had a device implanted in her spinal cord, and she had a remote control that would help her tune it up and down depending on how much pain she's had. about 2 months, well, okay, let's not give number of session. Shortly after a few sessions with her, she's reported that she's happier. And then she's reported that her pain, normally between at 7, 8, it got down to a 2 and 3. Now that is healing. And for someone to be in this amount of pain and to report that they're happier, that's also healing. And
There we go.
yes.
Yeah, not a whole lot to add to that because you're right spot on. And like we said, the medical hypnosis actually, does work, but not being a doctor, I would not want to go into that direction. I would think it would not be appropriate.
Correct.
But
And
there are certainly things that, like stress and anxiety is very chronic these days and very big. And it certainly has its place in helping those who would want that and can benefit from it. And there are others who just there's no way that they would be able to do that. They can't even, they're not even sure they want to quit smoking because maybe it won't work.
yes, yeah,
or
and
whatever.
yes, me and Randy, we talked about it before, that for someone to be successful in quitting smoking, they have to want to quit. They have to, their desire has to be about at 70%. Because
Absolutely.
if they just come, okay, make me quit smoking. Well, who's making you smoke? It's a choice you make. So let's work with a choice. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Yeah,
In-
absolutely.
In training, you know what they said to us in Ericksonian training? I forget which teacher it was, but I remember them mentioning that clients would come there to them to help them quit smoking, and their first question would be, "How come you don't want to quit smoking?" And then the client would be surprised. "Well, I'm here, aren't I?" So, well, the question has many more facets to it, and it's evocative also. But that is, we can look at it in at least 5 different angles. But when someone is ready to quit smoking, a session or 2 of hypnosis or a long session, like a 4-hour hypnosis session, 3-hour hypnosis session, it's going to be successful for them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Randy?
The other thing that I was thinking too was, you alluded to it, Carmen, that when you say, I'm paraphrasing you, but it's let them have their feelings, right? I mean, kind of lean into the feeling. Is that a fair way to put it? Paraphrasing what you were saying?
No, but I can address it. I'm not today. I did not say that.
Okay.
Today I said feel a feeling by choice. But normally I do encourage clients, whether it's hypnosis or whether it's coaching, I encourage them to feel what they're feeling. Feel it for 30 seconds. Don't suppress your emotions. Feel what you're feeling and then move on. Make a choice to not feel that. So what's going to take for you to not feel that other than drugs and cigarettes and alcohol and food and whatever? Because when you stop suppressing feeling, when you feel your emotions, you begin to observe a lot of different things. And oftentimes, it's easy to observe that, why am I so bent over shape over what? So just by feeling that and observing it, next time in the same circumstance, you may not be feeling so bent out of shape. Does it address what you were?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I know one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was doing psychotherapy, doing therapy, I made over and over and over, and it's still to this day. It's a some kind of subconscious reflex that kicks in just as well as if somebody taps me on my my leg moves. It's called motivational interviewing. It calls it the righting response. Righting as in R-I-G-H-T, making things right. And one of the things I was reading, I had read a book by a nurse that had breast cancer. And boy, is that a good book. It's called Healing. And it was an excellent book. I was pleasantly surprised. And one of the things that she talked about is, and I've done some subsequent reading, there are a lot of women with breast cancer that hate pink days, hate that idea of where being identified with pink, being identified with breast cancer, being identified as a victim of it. And one of the things she struggled with was, for lack of a better word, and I think as a hypnotist, I know I have to be aware of it, and I think a lot of us do in the field itself, that it's okay to be absolutely miserable and to feel like, and that's where she got a lot of her healing from, was not from a nice hypnotist like Randy who said, well, at least you can still drive, at least this and this, at least this and this. And they did give, it's not incurable, and and it wasn't. She did get cured from it. And blah, 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 and this and this, and let's look at the, as opposed to somebody nice, a nice guy like me trying to help her, what helped her a lot was just let people who let her kind of wallow in their misery, for lack of a better word, who let her have those kind of horrible, terrible thoughts. And by doing that, I mean, if you're going to get into Milton Erickson stuff, that's what Milton Erickson would do, right? I mean, you're an expert on a card. I mean, he would accept people for where they are. And, oh my God, I mean, it's still to this day, if somebody says, oh, I'm suffering, I'm upset, I'm this, boy, just instantly, it's like, well, it's not that bad, is it? I mean, at least you blah, blah, blah. And this is such a, it just doesn't work with a lot of people. So, anyway, just an idea in terms of, it came to me because I was thinking, in terms of what you were saying about feeling and letting people have feelings and that kind of thing. Sometimes those feelings are really hard for us to hear. And especially was hard for me back in the day because I'd say, well, because I think to myself, I'm going to have to say, yeah, it's just miserable, it is horrible. This is just a terrible, terrible, horrible thing. I don't blame you for crying for an hour. They'll take your check at the front if you want to just pay up front, okay? So it never felt congruent with that process. And I don't know if I ever resolved it, honestly, to tell you the truth. I just know in hypnosis, not the last thing I'll say, in hypnosis, the teachers that I've had, they've always emphasized the patient, the person, the client, should leave feeling better than when they came in, if that's possible. So, anyway, just rambling. Sorry.
Yes, and that's healing. But what I like to address is that people don't distinguish between emotions and healing and feelings, because feelings and emotions are not the same. I cannot stress that hard enough. An emotion might lead you to a feeling, and an emotion is going to create a thought, and a thought is going to create a feeling. But if you go ahead and experience that emotion and you observe that emotion, for a little bit, then you can just, whatever feeling you have about it is going to be a thought behind it. And then you can adjust your thoughts, how you think about that emotion. Right? So it's not that difficult to do, but one needs to have a clear understanding that an emotion is not feeling and feeling is not an emotion. There is a difference between them, although we are using these words interchangeably. So I'm reading here an article. I asked a question about the power of healing, and here what it says. In the realm of alternative medicine, there are various practices that aim to harness the power of thoughts to promote healing, such as visualization, meditation, and affirmation. The idea behind these practices is that by focusing on positive thoughts and images, a person can create a new neural pathways in the brain that lead to improved mental and physical health. How did I forget to talk about neuroplasticity? How often do I mention neuroplasticity? So we can definitely talk about neuroplasticity and new thought and the power of positive thinking next time. But today it's been a really good podcast. And anything you want to add to it, Randy, Ann?
I have one quick thing. This is a trivia question. What is the link between neuroplasticity and Superman? There is a link.
Randy, I'm going to have to look into it. We're going to have a podcast about it. I like that. Ann?
I can't top that one.
All right. Very good.
It was a great experience. Thank you.
Yeah, I am enjoying this, and